The ocean is basically Earth's version of, you think you know me, but you have no idea. We strut around on land like we've conquered the planet, but the truth is, we've mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than we've mapped the bottom of our own oceans. Yeah, Mars, the place 225 million kilometers away. Meanwhile, 2/3 of our planet is covered in water so deep and so dark it might as well be another planet entirely. And lurking down there, giants. Not the fairy tale kind that live in castles, but the kind that floats silently in the abyss, with eyes the size of dinner plates, teeth designed to slice through bone, or bodies that look like alien jello sculptures. They're alive today, swimming around right now in places no human has ever seen, and some of them are basically living fossils, survivors from a time when dinosaurs were still trying to figure out how to not trip over their own tails. So, buckle up. We're going to dive into the deepest parts of the oceans, where the sunlight dies, the pressure could crush a car flat, and yet somehow life has decided to go absolutely bonkers with size, from nightmare squids with hooks on their tentacles to ancient sharks that laugh at the concept of death. These are the giants hiding in the abyss. Yeah, turns out the real monsters never left. All right, let's kick this off with the celebrity of the deep, the colossal squid, Mesonechotuthis hamiltoni. You've probably heard of its slightly more famous cousin, the giant squid, Architeuthis dux. That's the one that pops up in sailor legends about the Kraken, giant tentacles wrapping around ships, dragging them into the abyss. But here's the kicker. The colossal squid makes the giant squid look like its awkward younger sibling who still hasn't figured out how to grow into their shoes. We're talking about a creature that can reach lengths of 12 to 14 meters. That's basically longer than a school bus and heavier too. But it's not just the size that makes this thing the stuff of nautical nightmares. It has the largest eyes of any living animal, about the size of dinner plates. Imagine staring into an eyeball so big you could use it as a frisbee. Those massive eyes aren't for show. They're built to detect the faintest flicker of light in pitch-black water, like the silhouette of a sperm whale sneaking up for a snack. Yes, even this beast is hunted. But here's where it gets spicy. Unlike the giant squid, whose suckers already look medieval, the colossal squid went one better. It has swiveling hooks on its tentacles. Actual hooks. Not content with just sticking to prey, it wanted to shred it too. So if you're a toothfish, it's basically like being caught by a nightmare claw machine that doesn't let go. And humans have found the evidence. Fishing vessels in Antarctic waters have accidentally hauled these monsters up, with one weighing nearly half a ton. And if you think that's terrifying, keep in mind that scientists suspect the colossal squid doesn't thrash around when it hunts. It probably just drifts silently in the dark, then lashes out with those hooks the moment something unlucky wanders too close. Surprise calamari, anyone? Of course, we've barely scratched the surface with this species. Most of what we know comes from dead specimens caught by accident. That means we have no footage of a healthy adult in its natural environment. Think about that. One of the largest predators on Earth, and we've never seen it alive in action. It's like knowing tigers exist only because you found paw prints in some fur. Which makes sense when you realize how absurdly hard it is to explore the abyss. Pressure at those depths could turn a submarine into an aluminum can under a steamroller, and yet somehow colossal squids not only live there, they thrive. Now, if we pull back the evolutionary curtain, cephalopods have been around for hundreds of millions of years. Their ancient relatives, ammonites and belemnites, were already making the seas terrifying long before mammals were even a thought. The colossal squid is just the modern representative of a lineage that has been perfecting the art of grab, hold, and eat since the Devonian. In other words, the Kraken might have been an exaggeration, but the inspiration, very, very real. So yeah, next time you're feeling brave about the ocean, remember, down in the cold, crushing dark of the Southern Ocean, there's a squid the size of a bus, with eyeballs that could double as dinner plates, and hooks that swivel like a horror movie weapon. And it's probably just hanging out right now, waiting for its next meal to make the mistake of swimming by. Not ideal. All right, let's move from bus-sized calamari with murder hooks to something a little less cinematic but equally nightmare fuel, giant isopods. Meet Bithynomus giganteus, the deep sea's answer to the question, what if we made a cockroach the size of a house cat and dropped it 2,000 meters underwater? Yeah, that happened. Picture your average roly-poly bug, the little pill bugs kids play with in the backyard. Now supersize that to half a meter long, slap it with armored plating, and drop it into the abyss where the pressure is so intense your lungs would collapse faster than your Wi-Fi during a storm. That's a giant isopod. They look like something that crawled straight out of a science fiction prop department. And yet they're very real, scuttling around the ocean floor like deep-sea janitors. And janitors is the right word because these guys are scavengers extraordinaire. Whale carcass? They're on it. A dead shark? Dinner is served. Dropped sandwich from a submarine? Probably fair game. They are the vultures of the deep sea, and they'll eat just about anything that touches down on the seafloor. But here's the creepy twist. They can also go literal years without eating. Years. Scientists have observed captive giant isopods refusing food for 5 straight years, and then casually munching on a fish one day like nothing happened. That's not just weird, that's nightmare roommate behavior. Their design is pure, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Isopods as a group have been around for 300 million years, which means their ancestors were already crawling around when giant dragonflies ruled the skies. The deep-sea giants we see today are basically prehistoric holdovers that never got the memo to evolve into something more photogenic. They don't need to, their strategy works. Eat when there's food, survive when there's not, and roll up into a defensive ball when something bigger comes along. And yes, predators do occasionally try their luck, but imagine biting into a crunchy armored plate only to realize your snack tastes like centuries of fish guts and despair. Even sharks probably regret it. So, while the colossal squid went all in on offense with hooks and eyeball radar, the giant isopod went with the classic survival tactic: be disgusting, be armored, and wait. But it gets better. Scientists think giant isopods may have been even more important back in prehistoric oceans when marine reptile carcasses would rain down to the seafloor. Imagine dozens of these armored cockroach dogs swarming the bones of a fallen mosasaur, peeling it apart piece by piece while the rest of the deep-sea community waited their turn. If that image doesn't make you rethink swimming in the dark, nothing will. And here's the kicker. Giant isopods aren't even the largest arthropods in history. Prehistoric seas had monsters like Gelatinous, a sea scorpion that reached over 2 meters long. Compared to that, a half-meter isopod seems manageable. But still, you do not want one of these rolling up on your picnic. So yeah, deep down in the crushing blackness of the ocean floor, the cleanup crew consists of armored bugs the size of chihuahuas, happily nibbling on corpses and occasionally fasting for years like it's no big deal. And that's just another Tuesday for them. Not the most glamorous giant, but trust me, if one of these scuttled across your living room floor, you'd move out. All right, let's talk sharks. Not your flashy, shallow-water, tourist-scaring great whites. No, we're going into the deep, where sharks decided to stop caring about appearances sometime around the Devonian period and just stayed that way. These are the living fossils of the abyss, creatures so weird and ancient-looking they make Jurassic Park look like a kindergarten field trip. First up, the Greenland shark, Somniosus microcephalus. Imagine a shark that swims slower than you jog, smells like rotten cheese because it's literally toxic to eat, and can live longer than some countries have existed. We're talking lifespans of over 400 years. That means there are Greenland sharks alive right now that were born before Shakespeare was even published. Yeah, your great-great-great-great-grandparents were in diapers when some of these sharks were already cruising under the Arctic ice. They move at a snail's pace, barely a meter per second, but when your prey is sleeping seals and half-rotten fish, speed isn't really a priority. Then there's the goblin shark, Mitsukurina ostoni, otherwise known as what happens when evolution sneezes. This thing looks like someone glued a pink nose onto a torpedo and then gave it a jaw that shoots out of its face like a spring-loaded trap. No exaggeration, when it attacks, its jaws literally slingshot forward like something out of Alien. It's been nicknamed the living fossil because its family lineage dates back 125 million years, and honestly, you can tell. It looks less like a shark and more like an unfinished prototype. But the real throwback champion, the frilled shark, Chlamydocelicus anguineus. This thing is basically a prehistoric eel with teeth, rows and rows of backward-facing, needle-like teeth that would make a saw blade jealous. First described in the 19th century, frilled sharks are rarely seen alive, but when they are, it's like glimpsing the Carboniferous in HD. They've been around for 80 million years, which means they swam alongside mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, and decided to just keep doing their thing. Their method of eating? Lunging at prey and swallowing it whole, which is a bold move considering their favorite meals include squid half their own size. Now, if you're wondering why these sharks look so strange compared to their flashier modern cousins, the answer is simple. Deep-sea life is about survival, not style points. No sunlight, crushing pressure, limited food. The sharks that made it down here didn't need to evolve speed or sleek hunting tactics. Instead, they doubled down on endurance, stealth, and, in the goblin shark's case, a jaw that can reach out and ruin your day before you even realize you're being eaten. And let's not forget their fossil record. Sharks as a group go back over 400 million years, long before trees even existed on land. That's right. Sharks are older than forests. While most shark species have come and gone in that time, a few deep-sea specialists basically shrugged off extinction events. Meteorite wipes out the dinosaurs? Doesn't matter, still swimming. Ice ages? No problem. Humanity invents fishing trawlers. Okay, that one's a little dicey, but some are still holding on. So when you hear the term living fossil, it's not just marketing fluff. These sharks are living reminders of ancient oceans, relics that decided, nah, we're good, and kept their old-school designs. And honestly, respect. If you can live 4 centuries, look like an eel with dental issues, or have a jaw that launches like a horror movie prop, you've definitely earned your place among the giants of the deep. So yeah, bad day to be a squid, because chances are one of these living fossils is still out there, waiting to swallow you whole. Now let's shift gears from armored bugs and fossil-faced sharks to something that looks a lot less intimidating, until you realize it's the size of your car. Enter the world of deep-sea jellyfish, gelatinous blobs of doom that have been around for 500 million years, just quietly pulsing their way through history while literally everything else fought for survival. Dinosaurs? Gone? Trilobites? Extinct? Jellyfish? Still here, floating around like immortal jello balloons. Take Stygiomedusa gigantea, one of the largest jellyfish ever discovered. With a bell over a meter wide and tentacles stretching out more than 10 meters, this thing drifts through the darkness like a slow-motion ghost. No stingers, no flashing teeth, no dramatic speed. It just unfurls its ribbon-like arms and engulfs whatever unlucky fish stumbles into its path. Imagine being smothered to death by a giant wet curtain. Not exactly cinematic, but brutally effective. And of course, deep-sea jellyfish have mastered the art of bioluminescence. Down in the abyss, light equals survival. Some species glow to attract prey, others flash like underwater fireworks to confuse predators. One even looks like a floating red UFO, because why not add a touch of alien weirdness to the mix? Seriously, if you ever wanted proof that nature doesn't care about looking normal, jellyfish are it. What's truly mind-blowing is how old this design is. Fossils of cnidarians, jellyfish relatives, go back over 500 million years to the Cambrian explosion. That means jellyfish were already cruising around when the first fish were just evolving backbones. Think about that. Before sharks, before trees, before pretty much everything, there were jellyfish, bobbing around being weird and immortal. And I do mean immortal. Some species can literally revert back to a juvenile stage after adulthood, a biological reset button that makes aging look optional. Not fair. Now compare these giants to their prehistoric cousins. Ancient seas once hosted even stranger gelatinous organisms, many of which left only faint impressions in the fossil record. Some scientists believe there were jellyfish-like creatures the size of small houses drifting in Ordovician waters, feeding on plankton long before whales ever thought of filter feeding. While we don't have solid skeletons to measure, it's not a stretch. After all, soft-bodied organisms don't fossilize well, so who knows what gooey monstrosities slip through time without a trace? And let's be real, jellyfish may look harmless, but they're ruthless survivors. They don't have brains, hearts, or bones. They're basically living sacks of water with stingers. Yet they've outlasted apex predators, ice ages, mass extinctions, and everything else Earth has thrown at them. Meanwhile, humans can't even survive a week without arguing over Wi-Fi speeds. So yeah, when you're thinking of deep-sea giants, don't just imagine teeth and claws. Some of the largest and most enduring monsters in the ocean are literally blobs of goo, quietly pulsing through the darkness, older than dinosaurs, older than forests, older than anything that looks remotely familiar. Basically, if aliens ever visit, they'll probably take one look at jellyfish and go, "Yep. These are our people." All right, we've covered the ones still lurking in the depths today. The squids with swiveling murder hooks, the roly-poly roaches of doom, sharks that look like they time-traveled straight out of the Cretaceous, and jellyfish that have basically cheated death for 500 million years. But let's not forget, the ocean once hosted giants so massive they make today's abyssal oddities look like appetizers. Fossils don't lie. The deep was once crawling, swimming, and chomping with titans that redefine the word big. Take Leadsichthys problematicus, a filter-feeding fish from the Jurassic. Picture a fish the size of a modern whale, 15 meters or more, lazily cruising through the oceans, scooping up plankton. That's right, before whales stole the plankton feeding gig, this bus-sized fish was already at it. The only problem? Its skeleton was made of fragile cartilage, so fossil evidence is frustratingly patchy. Paleontologists sometimes joke that its name, Problematicus, is less about science and more about how much of a headache it's been to study. Then you've got the pliosaurs, apex predators of the seas during the same era. Liopleurodon was a short-lived superstar, but what a superstar. Imagine a reptilian submarine, 6 meters long with jaws that could bite through bone like breadsticks. It probably wasn't quite the Godzilla-sized monster TV documentaries sometimes exaggerated into, but let's be real, even the modest estimates still put it among the scariest things to ever patrol the oceans. But wait, the Cretaceous had its own contenders. Enter the mosasaurs, like Mosasaurus hoffmanni. If the name sounds familiar, yes. It's the same creature that starred in that over-the-top shark gets eaten mid-air scene in Jurassic World. While Hollywood cranked the volume up to 11, the real deal was still horrifying enough. A 15-meter-long marine reptile with double-hinged jaws, capable of swallowing prey whole. They were the uncontested kings of the late Cretaceous oceans, taking down everything from ammonites to other mosasaurs. Think of them as giant Komodo dragons that decided land was boring and water was better for murder. And of course, let's not forget the true prehistoric heavyweight champ, Kronosaurus. With a name straight out of Greek mythology, this pliosaur stretched up to 10 meters and sported a jaw packed with conical teeth longer than your hand. Fossilized stomach contents suggest it wasn't picky either. If it swam, Kronosaurus probably tried to eat it. Imagine being a turtle in those days. Bad day. What's wild is how much of this world remains hidden. We know about these giants only because a few lucky fossil sites preserved their remains. But the deep sea itself? Fossilization down there is rare. That means for every Leadsichthys, Kronosaurus, or Mosasaurus we know about, there might be an entire roster of forgotten giants that vanished without leaving a trace. Which makes you wonder, if ancient oceans could spawn creatures that big, what might still be hiding in the unexplored trenches today? Because here's the kicker, we've explored less than 20% of the ocean. Some estimates are even lower, closer to 5%. That's it. The rest? Total mystery. And if today's abyss can still surprise us with colossal squids, 4-century-old sharks, and glow-in-the-dark blobs of goo, it's not crazy to think there might be more waiting. Creatures so strange and oversized they'd make our jaws drop if they don't bite them off first. So yeah, the giants of the past may be gone, but the ocean has a way of keeping secrets. And considering how little we've actually seen, who's to say the next forgotten titan isn't still down there, waiting in the dark?